Hello and welcome to this Saturday edition of the North Shore Drive podcast from the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette. I'm Chris Carter. He's Brian Batko. We're your Steelers writers, and as always, you can find this show on your favorite podcasting apps and on YouTube. Like this video if you enjoyed. Subscribe to this channel to get all of our daily content that comes from all of our writers here at the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette. As always, this show is brought to you by Edgar Snyder Associates. You know they also do workers' compensation. When you've been hurt on the job, you need to know who decides when you're better, who decides when your treatment's over, and who decides when your benefits are over. The answer might surprise you. It's the insurance company's doctors. If that doesn't make you feel great, you need to call someone who's going to have your back. That's Edgar Snyder Associates. Call them today at 1-800-94-EDGAR because they'll fight for the workers' compensation right that you deserve. Remember, there's never a fee unless they get money for you. Brian, let's talk about the Steelers quarterback situation right now. We all know Aaron Rodgers is the guy, but behind him is not as clear as a picture as I thought it would be when we started training camp. Mason Rudolph has been the number 2. Skylar Thompson came into camp as the number 4 while Will Howard was kind of the 3. And Will Howard looked good when he was in training camp, but then he hurt his thumb. He missed all the preseason games. And since then, Skylar Thompson has lit it up pretty well and looked pretty good, pretty solid in running the second and third team offenses for the Pittsburgh Steelers. And then you saw in the last 2 games of the preseason, Mason Rudolph in each game had a bad interception where he threw a pass that should have been picked off and was picked off. And Skylar Thompson came in and looked pretty clean in the series after him. Is this reading too much into it where people, because there's a lot of people out there saying Skylar should be the number 2 or should the Steelers try to glean off of what happened here in these preseason games?
Yeah, Chris, it's tough. I don't know. I mean, I guess with Skylar Thompson, after the first game in Jacksonville, I was like, all right, let's slow down the hype train. You know, he had one nice game. It's the preseason. He was facing a lot of backups. Hold the phone. After the second performance at home against the Bucs, I was like, all right, I'm starting to buy it a little bit more now, but let's see what he does in the third and final preseason game. Third and final preseason game Thursday night, he balled out again against the Panthers. So at this point, in all fairness to Skylar Thompson, you have to just judge him based on what you've seen, and he's showed out pretty well. Now, I guess there are a few different avenues the Steelers could go down here, Chris, and let me know what you think. Number one would be keep the vision the same. Say, thanks for all your hard work, Skylar. Appreciate the effort. If you don't get scooped up, we'll bring you back for the practice squad. You've earned that much. That would be option number one, I guess. Number two, you tell Will Howard, hey, you're just not ready. The injury was a real setback for you. We're just going to put you on IR. It's like, okay, it's not really an injury that warrants that long of an absence, I don't think, but it would be a way around some of the roster machinations here while also saying you're probably not going to surpass the 2 guys in front of you anyway right now. Then option number 3, which is kind of the nuclear option, but I don't know if they would even consider it. Would you cut Mason Rudolph and just say we're rolling with Skylar Thompson and Will Howard? That would be sort of drastic, but that's just sort of, I think, like the real outside the box idea here.
You say nuclear, that's like an Acme bomb just blowing up. It's like when Wile E. Coyote hits the lever and it doesn't explode until he's standing next to it. Listen, I think Mason Rudolph had 2 bad passes in these games. I think Skylar Thompson has had a really good preseason. He finishes with 4 touchdowns and 1 interception across 3 games. But Mason Rudolph, again, knows his team. I think he can fit the bill.
He doesn't necessarily know this offense, though, Chris. I mean, he and Skylar Thompson have been in this offense the same amount of time. So that's just some food for thought.
That's very true. But I also think it might be a little bit different for Skylar Thompson if he was playing the guys that Mason was playing consistently.
Yeah, against the Jaguars, I think that's true. And the Bucs, the Panthers did sit out 33 guys. So it's not like either one of them were really facing, well, the top of the line is relative when you talk about the Carolina Panthers, but their secondary is good if those guys were out there.
Yeah, and so I mean, and I hear the preseason. I don't think the Steelers will put a whole bunch of stock into some preseason completions from the quarterback. Also, because again, like the preseason is that no one's game planning for anybody. Like there's certain positions where you can glean things, like where you can learn things and observe things like individual matchups, individual fundamentals, things like that. But when it comes to the quarterback position, it can be so tricky because teams are literally just sitting back and just doing things. And if you're making reads, good job. But again, like when Kenny Pickett looked real smooth in the preseason a few years ago, it looked like, oh, maybe he's figured it out. And then it wasn't that at all when the season got started. So I just listen, I think that of all the options you laid out, I think there's two that make the most sense. Either A, you just keep Will Howard, Mason Rudolph, and Aaron Rodgers. You tell Skylar thanks for your services. If he's there after waivers pass, you bring him back on the practice squad. Or B, you say to Will Howard, hey man, we need some vets in case emergencies happen because we got an old quarterback and a young O-line. So we're gonna have you ride the pine this year, hit the injured reserve, but we're gonna roll with the two vets that have started in a playoff game each. So I think either of those would be reasonable by the Steelers at this point, just looking at what they need to do.
The crappy thing there, if you do that, would be Will Howard wouldn't even be able to practice. You know, if you're on IR,
very true.
You're injured, you're hurt. You can do conditioning off to the side, and obviously you can still be in all the meetings and stuff. But that would be sort of a lost season for him in a lot of the on the field ways that they were kind of hoping he would progress and develop. So yeah, I mean it's going to be interesting to see what they do. I guess, you know, the fourth thing that we didn't really mention because it might be sort of a pie in the sky idea, but hey, if somebody give you anything for Skylar Thompson, a la the Josh Dobbs trade to the Jaguars a few years ago, you'd certainly take that if you were the Steelers. Now, Dobbs was a former 4th rounder. Thompson's a former 7th rounder who was on a futures deal. So every team had a crack at him this offseason. I think the NFL kind of feels a certain way about Skylar Thompson. And, you know, because you made the good point about facing preseason defenses and coverages, I don't know if anybody's really going to be that smitten by what he did in these 3 games. But hey, you can get anything for him, even if it's a conditional 7th or a pick swap or something. I guess Omar Khan should be trying to trade up anybody who has a vacancy at the quarterback position.
Look, there's some teams hurting at quarterback right now. I mean, the Saints are one. They seem to be all over the place with the quarterback position. Hey, maybe the Browns need a 7th quarterback to observe, even though they named Joe Flacco the starter. Maybe they want to see Skylar Thompson or one of these guys. But yeah, I feel you on the Will Howard thing because again, Will Howard looked good, man, in training camp. Like, you know, and it's just training camp. I'm not going to try to say that he's ready to go and he's a superstar, but I think that he was checking a lot of boxes, and so it would kind of suck if he wasn't able to practice on that more and work on that more so that he could develop something going into next season. He was never going to play unless like absolute disaster struck. But again, Skylar Thompson looking good. You know, the question is, how good does he look enough to keep him as the 3rd quarterback option? Or like you said, should he supplant Mason Rudolph? I don't think he should. I think that preseason is a tricky thing to evaluate, to go that hard on with evaluations, but I certainly think again he proved that he belongs in the NFL at least as a backup quarterback somewhere. I think the question will just be, does Pittsburgh want to keep him there?
So in the hypothetical world here, Chris, if it's let's say there's 5 minutes left in the first quarter against the Jets week 1, and Aaron Rodgers feels some calf tightness, and they're gonna be safe with him, sit him out for the rest of the game. Do you feel better about Mason Rudolph getting you out of there with a win or Skylar Thompson in this offense?
Mason Rudolph.
Then I think that answers the question. That then he should be your backup. So, yeah, I mean, I guess it could be very easy to just dismiss Skylar Thompson and say anything he did in the preseason was really just gravy and just give him a pat on the back versus, you know, he actually did show us something here and we should believe it. You know, what's the old Tomlinism? If you make enough plays out here, we're going to believe you. So yeah, that's right. I guess what the coaches have to be considering. And hey, we don't know. Maybe they already went into this process saying Skylar Thompson is what he is. There's really nothing that he can do here to change our minds. But if there was any sort of, if the door was ajar at all, I think he did basically everything he possibly could to crack it open more.
Absolutely. Let's talk about some other positions. We'll do that next here on the North Shore.
When they package Skylar Thompson and Ben Sauls together to a team that needs a quarterback and a kicker, now we might be getting the 6th round conditional pick here.
we are moving on up, as some people would say. But let's talk about the D-line, because Derek Harmon was the big scary point of the game when he got injured. But the guy who filled in for Derek Harmon, Y.A. Black, continue to show why the Steelers are so excited about this guy. We'll talk about that next here on the North Shore Drive podcast and the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette. Chris Carter, Brian Batko. Stick with us. We'll be right back. Thank you for checking out this content from Post-Gazette Sports. If you watch this video on YouTube, please like the video and subscribe to our channel. For all of the sports coverage the Post-Gazette has to offer, visit post-gazette.com.